Okay, hello everybody. And now I'm recording also sound from the start, as I missed last time. Today, okay, let me admit, we will have a couple of guests. Hi, Sofia.
Hi.
Okay, let me just start sharing my screen. Okay, Zoom goes down. Let's see when somebody else joins, this will start popping up. Till then, let me just move things. So today is June 16, almost a month since our last meetup. And I was, this is meetup number 13 for Agentics Foundation Serbian chapter that we are founding here from Novi Sad and other places around Serbia. Hello, hello. Okay. Okay, so as this is being recorded and shared with everybody, this will go again in English as previous ones. And let me now admit other guests as they are coming also more online. So for those that are, first time or watching these recordings later for the first time, we are doing regular meetups here in Novi Sad in StartIt AI Hub Center. Thank you, Lukashin, for providing the space. Who we are, we are a chapter from the Agentics Foundation who is, here to help with defining the agentic engineering and what they represent by providing education, open source projects, and regular events all over the world. We are just one of the, I think, 16 or more active chapters right now in the world. So what are we doing here? In these meetups, we are working on implementation for the community social network that we started developing here, somewhere in November, based on the as community selected, and how we are doing. I'm showing regularly how we are doing the both planning, development, and now verification of what agents did. And my tool stack is I'm using Claude, I'm using Grooveflow as an orchestration harness. And now it's a modern way to call something that orchestration framework, okay? And my agentic QE fleet for quality gates and validation of what other agents did, and in general verification and informing the quality of the inspecting the quality of the application. So more people are joining, more people are coming live. So probably I should start from 6:15, not 6. It's still early, especially as the days are longer. Let's see. Maybe we can move next meetup a little later. So I'm usually, we are already somewhere in our development, and in the last session on May 25th, we did I run UI test loop, or I use the loop feature of the Claude code to initialize my skill, QE browser skill, that will use Vibium as a runner for UI test to run the full journey of in the application and to find bugs and to fix them. So we have a report here. Let me continue the previous session. I'm using dangerous skip permission mode when I'm working. That was that DSP, that's alias that I created to start my session without typing every time Claude dash dangerous skip permissions. And as this is continuing session 25 days ago, or almost 26 days ago, no summary, and don't ask me again. Usually when I want to continue, I want to continue. If I don't, I would compact my conversation, but just to give you rough look of what we did then. Oh, later we can even see, how many tokens we spent for the. Yeah, probably, something, somewhere, somewhere. So a lot of things, bugs found, fixed. So 16 files were uncommitted. I committed them later. Okay, let's now clear the context because we have the session summary here. So if by any chance you are starting like a clear okay, this is one of the, let's say, little hacks that I use. When I work in a session and that session is almost, context filled, and I want to be able to continue working on that session later, I usually ask Claude, okay, give me a session summary so I can, continue working on that one later. And that will extract important information. I already have that session summary there. Okay, let me admit other people joining. Okay, let me move. I don't need to watch myself while I'm sharing this. So I will now clear the context on purpose. Okay, yeah, fable story. We will get there sometime today. Okay, now the context is cleared. But if I would like to continue working on my previous session without like using continue session option that I used as I started with the -c, I could say read and then add the file. So file is some session. Okay, there it is. So session fixes and list fixes we should work on per priority. Prepare a new test journey to run after fixes. Okay, this is one prompt. We are continuing where we were. And let's see now, I think we are using this. Let me double check which model we are using. It should be using Opus. I will start a new session because I want to do some additional checks there in parallel. But let me just check. Yeah, Opus. Yeah, okay. Opus 1 million, there it is, 1 million contacts. Okay, we are there. I didn't, oh, look, even copy pasting will send some characters now into Claude. So yeah, it's interesting as they're releasing new features, not to break something else. So what I wanted here is based on the, some previous sessions, agents said that they are done, but they were not done, as we found out in the previous run. Okay, let's see what this one now said. Okay, it's preparing new journeys, post-fix text journeys. Run this via the Vibium move after each. Okay, it targets the exact gap fixed. Okay, priorities. Okay, section. So start with the core trust authentication. Okay, agreed. Social signal is fake without this. Display name, show member. Okay. Visible UX gaps. Okay. So we have end journeys. Okay. So now loop. That's really nice feature and we will use like 5-minute intervals. Implement, integrate, verify. cover with behavioral tests. Okay, I think it will be enough. Cover with behavioral test, validate from user perspective, every fix, use QE browser skill to run the app and validate. We don't trust only tests. What I love to add is no shortcuts, and we value quality we provide our users. These are, small hacks that I'm using, but even with the whole, let's say harness that Agentic QE Fleet and Rooflaw are providing, this triggers additional keywords and activates additional skills to be used by Claude. So let's see now. It needs to create a cron job with the 5-minute iteration, and each of those loops will run its own. It should run its own subtasks. So each of the fixes should be a subtask for itself. So, not polluting the main context of the main Claude. Okay, while we were there, I wanted, well, this one is working on the fixes. I already demoed that to several people, but something that my friend and colleague Lalit contributed to my Agentic QE fleet, and that's his set of QCSD. Oh my God, what happened? I don't want that. I want to see all of them. And now, yeah, better maybe to, yeah, terminal. Yeah. Let's try again. That happens when I entered model mode. So let's try QCSD. Still? Why I cannot see all of them? Okay. I know all of them, so I will show them from here. So better to show the skills here, but I will invoke them. What I want to show is all 5 skills. So for every phase in your software development lifecycle, there is one swarm skill to invoke that will surface information about the quality and what should be, let's say, added, updated, not only on the test level, but it will do also product level from the different perspective. So depending on the domain that the application fits in, it will run different types of checks. And it has at its responsibility like a set of agents and skills to use. So it's not only one skill, one agent, but as it runs through different phases, we can see that this QCSD is short from quality conscious software development. So, you need to be really quality conscious about your software development. And this gives you a set of skills to cover whole phases. So you don't need to think that much, which agent should I use now as I'm doing like the refinement of my requirements? I could just initiate, for instance, QCSD ideation swarm. And that will, depending on do the assessment of what current status is of your project and give you certain level of feedback. So let's try. So again, like a set, You have start with the ideation if you're in the requirements phase, even if you're developing a new feature or something like that, you can use for that. Then next one would be the refinement swarm that even can use the feedback from the previous one as intro. And then next one is development. I would say we are somewhere between refinement and development. So I run on some other projects, development swarms. I will try to run refinement swarm here to see what kind of quality assessment it can provide. So this is the refinement swarm. So in another window, I will say use QCSD refinement swarm and perform a full quality analysis on this project. We not done with development. So we need an honest feedback the current status. Save reports as .md. No, QCSD should have its own reporting thing. Let me not mess with it. Let me test if it will work. So this one we now start running one by one again, as it invokes the skill and does first the initial analysis of the project to understand what kind of project it is. Then it will decide what are the first agents and skills to invoke to do the analysis. So this one is working in a loop, finding problems, fixing them, and testing them. So we will leave that one to work as we are doing the session. So using loop for bug fixing, especially when you already have a list of problems, is quite easy, and then you can work on something else while that one is working on its task. What else also I use is that, for instance, what I could ask also, if I want to make it more atomic, I could, for instance, ask each fix should has its own commit, so I can cherry pick later if I want, or those that are doing that with more Dart factory and more autonomous, I'm checking more what agents are doing. They would create multiple work trees for each of the issues. So using Git work trees for multiple issues, and then again, it can be a merge nightmare, but depending there are some
snapshots. It's better work trees than snapshots.
Yeah, but there are some tools that I still haven't tested that should allow agentic work much, let's say, much friendly for agents. There is like a Jujutsu framework created, which company created that? Let me find that. And I know that Ruven did adapted that. So if you're interested, let me try to find Jujutsu, but not Kaizen. Well, open source this. This. Which team created this? I know some of the big pro company is behind this, but this should provide like a version control system, but giving agents possibility to edit like multiple agents to work on the same file. I still haven't tested this, and I don't see that they continued working on this. Let me see when was the last. Oh, there are last month, and there are a couple of fixes recently. So they're still in 0 point something version, but that's something to check for those that would like to have maybe an option like multiple agents running on the same code base at the same time. New type of version control. Okay, let's see what this one did. Okay, as the other one is doing the fixes right now, it can be that it didn't run the latest build, so maybe the build is failing right now. Huh. Let's see how it will cope with the. I probably it would be better to give it info. So I will now. I am working on some fixes in another terminal. Make sure to so this could impact your analysis and build. So I need to provide more context because it's confused with the stuff happening in another terminal. Okay. Now I understand. Oh, I am still catching them a lot of time. And again, we what is becoming like the work is really creating those harnesses and providing the proper information and proper context to the agent when it's needed. Because if it doesn't have all the context, yeah, definitely it will misbehave. So let's see this one. Okay, iteration one done. Okay, P0, number one implement, tests are in, build is rebuilding in the background. Okay. So it did run the build. So maybe that will do some conflicts with this. When we are talking about harnesses, something that I still need to test, where it is. Yeah. Roof during the weekend created agent harness generator that you can, like a meta harness thing, you can use to generate your custom AI agent harness from any repo. Huh. Because harness is the most important things, and even the benchmarking now collected, and I think I read just recently, I don't know today, that, oh, I think I even have that in my Claude. Let me check. As I was analyzing one of the articles, uh, yeah, this. So moving a coding agent from outside the top 30 to top 5 by changing only the harness, no model change. So more and more benchmarks and tests are validating that having a good harness is what makes your agentic system work as it should instead of just vibe coding around it. So yeah, definitely. Other studies are also confirming similar things. So that's like a interesting thing to be aware of. And yeah, a hidden cost of vibe coding. You will have a lot of operational expenses later on the reprompting loops, maintenance, tax on the spaghetti code, security remediation, and other stuff. So yeah, what are people not measuring? Oh, we are just measuring. This is how much token we spent to implement this feature. But how much tokens in the end did you spend maintaining that feature, debugging, developing, like a whole set of tests and evaluation for the framework. having a good harness also reduces the token consumptions. One of the stories to tell, as I was at the conference, craft conference in Budapest, during the hands-on session there, I changed, whole completely how I approach it. But I ran like the analysis of OpenClaw repository. So I selected again one open source repo as usually and did analysis. And it was interesting to see how where is my code space? How using even the same harness, so I installed the GenTQE fleet in this repository, but it didn't have any pattern saved. And I ran like a prompt, and I ran the same prompt in my GenTQE fleet development environment where I already have a lot of patterns saved. Difference in token spend was more than 20%. So in this one, and as soon as this one is up, and I will start my QE development, so I can show while other systems are working, we can watch some other informations. Let me start this. So make it a little bigger. And did he start it? Yes, no, yes, okay. Where is my, no. Where is that? This. This is the one that I was looking for. So this was when oh no, not last 7 days. How can I see more? Oh no, I cannot see. It was more than a week. When did I did a workshop? 5th. How can I change the settings for this? Extension. Let's see if I can change, or it's only giving like a runtime status. No commands. I can see only 1 week. I cannot show you, but I know that it was a difference. Here it spent like a 420K tokens for input, and it spent only 320K, so almost like 80K less compared in the one that already had patterns learned. I couldn't show you the data points, but I have that recorded. So when the craft conference session recording is up on YouTube, I will share that later with the community. So that's recorded. And I don't know if the guys, because I was a guest on the Halifax meetup for the Agentics Foundation, we did similar tests there. So I don't know if they recorded that because I showed them and it was less than a week, so we could see the data. Okay, going back to the here. Okay, it saved the report. So let's see what we. Okay, that's not today. Report from today. Okay, let me move this. Let's see if somebody needs to be admitted. No, okay, nobody is waiting. So, development in progress, not ready. We were quite aware of it's not ready, but good to get the confirmation. Okay, missing, broken. To confirm still live in the code. We are still fixing those. So those are the issues that we are already aware and fixing in the session next. Okay, builds are broken. We'll fix that. Confirmed in the code. Okay. We will do this, header trust, privilege escalation, following test. Okay, that's something to fix. Real gaps is effectively untested. Only one specification for the whole web app. Haha. Persistence is as tested. Okay. Okay, we didn't test that. We only persisted the admin user so we can log in into the application. Oh, but we have strengths. So, this is like a sandwich feedback. This is also a good thing. Like when you're giving bad news, try to give some good news also. So we have clean domain-driven design. Oh, James is joining. Okay, hi James, welcome. So strengths are domain-driven design with 8 bounded contexts, domain infrastructure separation, handlers, nice. At unit level, we have a good coverage as we use TDD approach into development. So that's why our unit tests coverage is high. Team is honest. Okay, we have our master report already scored this with the failed. So we did some quality reports in the previous sessions. So, okay, well architected project, fix B1, fix okay, green, okay, then add frontend. This was the shorter than expected, but let's see what are the files that were changed. Yeah, this was only one file. Usually, when running, I think it didn't run the specialized agents, and I need now to check. So what I noticed in the last, let's say, month with some updates to Claude, it will not use the specialized agents. Yeah, it didn't use. So, you did not use QE specialized agents and skills as defined in QCSD refinement swarm. Run the analysis again using the skill. Let's see if it will say, oh, you are right, I didn't do that. I'm sorry, I will do it now. Lollygagging. I had a collection of all these, like Claude verbs, how to call them. It's quite interesting. You can notice who is working a lot with Claude. It will start talking gibberish on the street. Okay, let's see how much tokens. You're right. Now, it needs to do this. So first step is this, what I needed to, QCSD skill has this defined. It needs to check, does it has the API? Has it refactoring? Depends. So, what are the things that the application has? And then based on that, it needs to start specialized agents. And we just saw how in skipped doing that. Again, caught in lying. Completion theater in act. Now it's using those agents that as I expected, and each of these agents will spend less than 100K tokens for the specialized tasks. So that's also how to save the tokens. You don't want generalist agents doing the analysis because they will spend more. They will use more bash tools because they're not quite sure what should they analyze. And if the system doesn't have some memory with some patterns to explain also to agents what should be better way to approach certain problems, then it will misbehave as we just saw in the first prompt. Now you need to push Claude more. If you have a harness and you know that that harness provides you with some specialized agents, you need to push for using those. So let's see, for instance, how are some of the prompts of these agents generated now by Claude Code and what are really the tasks that it asks from. So This is using, so for those from the quality assurance and familiar with the context-driven school of testing and rapid software testing approach by taught by James Bach and Michael Bolton. This is codified as a deeper analysis, meaning it will do the analysis of the structure of the application, functions in the applications, data, infrastructure it runs on, then what was that? P, I think it was like from the product, operations, and the time factor. So different perspectives to analyze your system. And this provides completely different analysis than just vanilla Claude trying to do its own exploration of the code base. And you will see later how that looks like when we go back to the, okay, let's go back to the, let's check maybe what's the other one? Oh, only one is still around. Oh, no, the others are still running. So this one will create BDD scenarios for the user stories that we are missing right now. So let's see what was the original prompt for this one. So this one is a BDD scenario generator. And as a platform operator, admin login must require, okay, story being refined for sprint commitment, current state, verified task. It should generate comprehensive gherkin BDD scenarios for happy paths, negative security, edge cases. So, let's see how many scenarios we will get. And I see already it's looking at the classes it needs to cover. Okay, we will get now a new file with the BDD scenarios we will check later. And the current stub implementation fails. Okay, security regressions. Nice. Okay, let's go back to the main. So as it's progressing through the different steps of the analysis defined in the QCSD refinements form, it will use the data from one step to feed the data into the next step to see what is the missing analysis or what should be added, generated, information surfaced. So now we have contract validator because we have APIs there. So it will probably write some contract tests on the integration level. It will map dependencies in the system. And okay, this is SOD analysis, state of, what's the SOD? But it's, okay. This is responsible, okay. Analyzing, okay, let's check that one. I think it even created the documents. Let's see which oh, we have the BDD scenarios already. That's interesting for those, and I have a number of QAs here. So let's check what kind of BDD scenarios we got. So these are for the admin two-factor authentication and session binding. Okay, specific for those. Looking at the endpoints and contracts as they exist right now. Some are, okay, this is the public authentication. Some need this and that, okay. Target behavior, acceptance. So what? Let's see, we want to log in and pre-two-factor challenge token. Not accepted. Okay, enrollment generated server-side secret returns. Okay, two-factor balance identity. So anything more to add? QAs here in the room. Any ideas? So first feature, two-factor enrollment. As a platform, I want to enroll, bound to my admin identity so that the server store secret exists to verify codes against. Okay. given an admin account with the status of preconditions, then happy scenario, and smoke is then enrollment, return, provision URI, and then request. Okay, gets 200. Response contains a one-time URI. Is persisted, stored, is pending confirmation. Okay, so this looks like a good. And security can without a stored secret. Okay. Huh. This would fail today. And it already flagged that it would fail. A good. So it should fail until we fix it, right? Then login issues with the pre-two-factor challenge. Okay, and this fails today. So as it aware of the code right now, it already flags things that will fail when this is automated. But this looks like a decent coverage. Again, what we always do in the end, when this is done and we will leave it running, we will ask for additional analysis as we have specialized skills and agents to do the adversarial check of what other agents did to check if they missed something. But even like a small hack, even if you don't have specialized agents for that, one thing when the agent says, I'm done, check did we miss something. And let's say in more than 90% cases, it will find something that it missed. Oh, let me double check this. Yeah, and then what is good enough? When do you stop checking, the output? That's again on us as humans to really see the output, the results, the information provided. Okay, show me, in database, show me UI. I need to see if everything really works because I don't trust your blue eyes. Okay, this one came to rest. Retested after cross-validation with peers. Suffers deepest finding yet. Oh, self grants the admin role to any active member. Nice bug. Nice bug. So, yeah, doing this kind of verification again, we cannot remove completely human verification, but we can surface a lot of valuable information, not needing to dive quite deep into every part of the applications. Some questions, maybe?
Are you using Claude file, project file in your control? Can you show us that?
Yeah, of course. It's not only Claude. I will show you what else fits the system because you're first time here. But this Claude was created as a
project system.
So this is for the project, but it was generated automatically when I initialized first Cloud Flow. Now it's called RuFlow as it was rebranded, and my Agentic QA fleet. So it provided first those information. Let me see where is my Agentic QA fleet is somewhere here. Then I ask, okay, go now and reduce the size of Claude, keep only the important information and move the rest to some helper files. So to make the whole file leaner. Let me see if I have those. No, this is Agentic QA fleet. Yeah. The first 200 lines are Claude Flow or RuFlow orchestration, and then the rest is Agentic QE, how to use that system. There is not that much about the project itself. That's why I always keep open the README file, because if you start using a Claude with any file open in your Visual Studio Code, it will automatically be pulled in the context of Claude. That's also a trick if you didn't. Yes. So if you have an open file in the Visual Studio Code and you start a session in the Claude, it will automatically load this file next to the Claude MD into the session context. So I don't know if you noticed that.
No, but if it is another project in another folder and has its own file.
Yeah. You can. Yes. What's the question there?
No, just in that case, will it mess it up or no? It will follow its own.
So initialization of the agentic QE fleet appends at the end of the Claude MD and creates even a backup. Rule flow initialization is destructive. So it overwrites your Claude MD. So you need to be careful when you're initializing. You know, as I usually first initialize rule flow, then I initialize my fleet. That's why as I was developing it, created it to immediately append to the end, not to be destructive. And also, what you will get with initialization is not only Claude MD, you will get a lot of hooks. Oh, I need to change this. This was not updated with the new init. Let me test that. Let me try now. AQE init out. As I did some changes to hooks, and I didn't update it here. So I did update to the newest version of the AQE, but I didn't initialize the newest version. I will try now to do the initialization in the middle of work. This should update the hooks. I'm not using any more npx. I use some CGS script that should come in the helpers or hooks file. So let me see if now I'm testing live if or I should use the migrate. Let me try with the out. It should already recognize that it has a memory. It recognized the memory. It is now scanning the files, creating a knowledge graph for the files that were not existed initially when we created the system. Because when you are creating, using AQA init, it will create a knowledge graph of the system. That's also why it saves tokens, because it already knows where to look for things. It has complete knowledge graph of the code base. Now it works slower because the rest of the things are working in parallel, and I think database is being already used by the other hooks. But okay, let's give it some time. Let's see what this one is doing. Stopping and waiting for all three. Are you finished waiting for the 3 batch? Still not done. Come on, come on. Yeah, definitely. MPX hooks that I'm using are also keeping the memory system. What's slowing down is now putting everything in this memory DB file here. And it's probably being used already with active system. That's something to do before you start working, not in the middle. Don't do like I did. Okay. Come on. 100 more. Let's see the loops. Next loop. PO closure shipped and live verified. Will resume. Okay. So it fixes quite fast. If it takes only this much to resume. Knowledge graph. Almost done. You're close. Okay. Let's see. Did you update? Aha, it did. Now hooks looks different. So as there is always like a problem from where it's running, so it needs to look at the Claude project directory, and then new hooks are here. So this compact JavaScript is compatible with any platform, so you can run it on Linux, Mac OS, or Windows machines. That's why I moved away from Bash scripts, SH scripts, because they run only in the Unix environments. So you cannot run them on the Windows machine. So I had some issues reported by users. So yeah. And if you're interested, you can check what are the hooks. Hooks are really using AQE CLI, hooks system for certain actions. Yeah. So there, for those that are first time here, there is like a guard that will look at your file before pulling it and giving it to the LLM tool, like checking for the prompt injection, stripping of the privacy information, and other stuff that you don't want to end up in the prompt, and other types of hooks on different events. And this is how you make your system or your harness behave more deterministically, because providing only instructions in the agent definition and skill definitions will be, let's say, agents have a tendency of ignoring those instructions more than 20-25%. So that's not fully deterministic, even if you have the important, big letters, do not do this and that. If you don't have deterministic hooks or certain events in your system, you cannot fully control, what's happening. And also, what are the important things? Let's see if it's there. It should be here. So, of course, you know, don't remove all. Yeah, that's also a thing you need to control. And I think I added now here with even with the star, so it cannot remove anything, without my explicit approval, because numerous time it just decided to remove stuff, and I don't know how many times. That's why I have a hook that on session end creates a backup of the database, for instance. So I don't want to lose the data anymore. Okay, and some other things that you get in settings. I'm thinking maybe changing, because you can have the Claude MD local, for instance. So you can have the main Claude MD, and you can have Claude.md.local with the additional configuration related specific to that project and to that user. So if you want to have a different configuration compared to other developers or engineers in your team working on the same project, you can use the Claude MD local to make the configuration fit your specific needs. Or you can even ask your Claude, move me now, this stuff into Claude MD local, if you don't want to have it shared with the team, and keep it like in git ignore. Okay, yeah, for those that are first time here, the power of platform comes from this. Yeah, let's see now if it will load. Come on, come on. I don't know why it doesn't have that much data there. Let's see if the CPU is, no. I have a lot of memory on this, but Docker is struggling. Docker is struggling. So what is, giving power to this system is, agents, QE agents is there, working, and the hooks in the system will, save experiences about certain actions in the system. Let's see, there will be different concept edges and nodes saved in the system about the system itself. Only one cover session. Okay, we are still early in QE agents here. System will try to surface those meta patterns by dreaming, running dream cycles, and finding novel association between the existing patterns in the system. Okay, events not saved. Let's see, experience, no. I'm checking to see, okay, there were some GOP actions run in the system. So when there is a need for goal-oriented action planning for certain actions, those will be saved. Whole system, like a knowledge graph of everything, plus additional things that need a key value to be stored. Let's see. Oh, this is also old database, so new patterns here. So as agents are working, they are saving patterns with a certain level of confidence, and then those patterns, not reused. Okay, this is still early in the system. Patterns have not been reused here, but as they are being reused, I will show in the other system, confidence increases or decreases. So depending if the pattern was used successfully or unsuccessfully, and I can show that in my system. So yeah, let's go here. Let's go here. Not this file, I need my file. So memory. Yeah, I have almost 20,000 experiences here. So patterns. And some patterns are being reused with a certain success rate more, then the confidence in those increased. So they were initially saved with a less confidence, but as they are being reused, the confidence increases, again depending what's the quality score for everything, and what kind of tier they belong to, what template they use, and there is a lot of information that those hooks that you saw will surface to agent before they start working on tasks. That's why the whole system harness, in this case agentic QE harness, saves tokens as the agents are being used more and more on project, because some patterns will exist in the system, and for those patterns agents don't need to call LLM for reasoning. They can just reuse the patterns that they already saved in the system. So yeah, that's what really gives the power, not only to my system, but also to the RuFlow orchestration. He uses AgentDB and saves that in the RVR format, so I cannot show that data easily. But we can ask Claude to check what data was saved. So this one is now working on some third iteration or something like that. Yeah. So it's now on the third or fourth fix in a row, as we were doing something else and watching in the last more than 45 minutes. This one, it was running loops, doing fixes, something that we will validate in the next session. So let's use now the time, maybe again for some questions. Maybe somebody from the online participants, or maybe somebody from those that are here. If you have from online, just share in the chat, or if you want to ask, you can ask. I have something more to show, but later.
Hi, Dragon. I had one question. On the experiences, is that information visible? Is it like a black box, or can we actually see what the system thinks it's learned?
Those experiences
Yeah.
that I just showed.
Yeah.
Let's show them again. So, for instance, let's say pattern. One of the patterns that it saved with some. So each of these It has its own pipeline for promoting short-term patterns to locate. This is something that it's trying to learn with certain confidence. Okay, let's see what else we have here. Okay, that's about that for the pattern.
Mm.
Okay, let's check other stuff. Let's check the experiences. Let's see the experiences. Capture the experiences. Let's see. This was some CLI hook. Okay. Oh, it has an embedding. So it has a vector.
Okay.
So
Okay.
yeah, some things are vectorized. Let's see. No, yeah, we cannot open the vector like that. Where is now my where is my database?
It's
So
obviously seen something that's repeatable, useful in the data, I guess.
yeah, definitely. But it's not only in one table; it's across the tables and in the vectors.
Mm.
So the trajectories between patterns are also saved. Let's see why it's taking so long to. Come on, log in. Well, this one is yeah, maybe I can show here. So each of those patterns, some of these patterns are vectors here. So let's see. For instance, this was, some unit test generation that created a vector. And this was a pattern for cross-adapter state sharing. Again, a vector. So,
Okay.
a number of vectors in the hyperbolic, vector space. So this is not a regular, like a Euclidean plane, vector database. This is using RuVector that provides this hyperbolic vector database on top of this. And when I want to describe how that looks like, I usually show my Negual system that's also using the same RuVector database. Let me go and show you. So my system that I'm using to store my meta patterns, let's call it like that, as I'm working from different agents, I'm porting knowledge here, and that knowledge looks like this. I'll give it a second. So it's interesting to see. So this is hyperbolic vector, space. So it's in 3D. It's not only like a 2D Euclidean plane.
Okay.
Yeah. And then every pattern stored in the database has its own, let's say, connection to other nodes, but
All
some
right.
of these connections are stronger as those patterns, match in certain clusters. So it's like those connect. I'm looking at this like our brain is behaving because you have neurons and you have synapses that are being stronger between certain creating certain memories, connecting certain neurons in a certain way. In this way, this hyperbolic vector database provides ability for vectors to find their neighbors and other patterns that they're close by in that 3D space. And that's you can see like clusters of these, like somebody called them viruses, but they're just thicker connections between the nodes in the system, because system recognize them like these are Rust error handling patterns that it recognize and group them like in a simpler space.
Recognize orphans also.
Sorry?
Does it recognize orphans? Unconnected knowledge.
Yes. Yeah. And this is only like a 5K out of, I have 6.6K. Let me see if I can, this 3J's component sometimes has problems. Let me see if I can try to pull all the database, all the nodes now in the system, because there are new connections every day. As I'm feeding the system constantly with new knowledge, as I'm inputting the new data, I'm just starting to see some of the new shapes in the space. And again, different colors, because depending on the types of this is like again, Rust, working on Rust project. This is like a usage of the patterns in the history. So it recognized that as one cluster. Let me see that one. That's a new one. Let me see how to make it closer. Yeah. So these are some of the patterns it learned while using my Nagios system locally. Like grep commands, CLI commands, different CLI commands grouped in one cluster. And there are different knowledges, like, that are not connected, or maybe are connected just to another chunk that is really close to that in that vector space. Okay, so it's interesting. And these blue ones are, I think, these are futures. So they are like a system recognize them that they could add extra value in future. And this is like how to give agentic AI security and concrete. Let me see. Maybe
It needs connections, right?
Yeah. It needs connection with other. This is some security again, but completely other agent personas. Some article that or some pattern that I learned, but it made a connection with that one. Okay, going back to see what agents did while we were, okay, closing the memory. Did that answer maybe your question?
Yeah, it's actually very interesting. Thank you.
And one also thing, because both Nagiol and Agentic QE are open source project, I have one improvement that I started working on, like cross-pollinating and using like a local LLM as a judge, testing, oh my God, new Gemma 4, 12 billion local model on this MacBook as a local judge, and one more. I need to find the data. Give me a second. I was doing that a couple of days ago. So let me just find where it was. It was in the docs. But where? No. It was in the scripts. Benchmark. There it is. But there was. Where is the file? Oh, it's not easy to look to file. Okay, let me try to find file in here. Just give me a second. Coding, agentic QE, and docs. Not docs, scripts. It should be in scripts. Date modified. There it is. Oh, this one. This is the one that I'm looking at. It's called Judge. Okay, now I will find it easier. Judge there. This was the file that I was looking for. So as part of like using local models as a semantic oracle for the patterns that I want to port from my local agentic QE fleet development environment in my Nagiol as like a meta harness, meta memory that collects other meta patterns. I tested using, so let's see, which models. So Gemma 4, 12 billion, and QN3, 8 billion parameters, like small models to run on a local machine but both did really good with this, test. This AUROC test is a discrimination between like a high value knowledge and life cycle noise. So to really determine what kind of patterns should end up into meta memory system, not to feed it with the junk. And just by using a local model that can run on your local machine, I can filter down quite precise patterns to be uploaded into other memory system. And the responses that I got were also, quite good, with both models. Even the JAMA provided much, better model in the end. And again, it surfaced some of the things and patterns that were not rewarded properly, and they should be because they are used more in the system. And it also found a broken pattern because when it was saving, I think the field limit, it cut off part of it didn't save the whole pattern description. So this system also suffers that, like this is like a broken pattern. Yeah, this pattern is incomplete due to text truncation. So it found these kind of problems. So, and these open source models, I have a plan also in testing them more, not only on my machine, but also on some hardware now as I'm working for Cognitum and, preparing, now I'm testing like V0 devices, like really having like a small brain available where you can port sensory data from different sources into one system and then analyze that and run everything like with the local elements, not leaving your premises. So something that really, if you need secured environment in full control, that's the next level. But I can show that, probably in the next session when I finish more. For next session, in the last 3 minutes, I need to use this time, before like I close the online part of the event, and I'm always doing some, extra bonus session for those that come in person here. Next event is in 2 weeks on the 2nd of July, and I will have guests. That event will be a slightly different event than we usually do, as I will do it as a panel. I have guests coming from abroad, Adam Kovac and his wife Clara Hernandez, I think. They are now digital IT nomads, part of the Agentics Foundation tribe, and they're traveling all around the world. We did a session from Budapest, from their rented apartment in Budapest a couple of weeks ago when we were there. And I invited them to come as guests here. And as they're both heavily involved in enterprise AI adoption, I would like to use that topic as a major topic for the panel discussion for the next session. And I will also invite my good friend and colleague Predrag Skokovic from Quality House to join us to that event. And I will see also with Vukasin if I have some other, good volunteers to add, as we will try to do something different and to do a panel-like session with focus on enterprise AI adoption and how to help the teams. So look at it from the bottom up, not only from the up bottom as most of the companies are approaching, and that's why the adoption is not going as C levels would like, as it AI tool will just throw to people and go and use them. Okay, thank you for the online guests for joining us. I will upload the recorded session tomorrow and share to whoever applied to Luma events. So making everybody informed with the follow-ups, even if they're not appearing regularly. Have a nice day or evening, and see you next time on the July 2nd for the meetup number 14 from the Agentics Foundation Serbian chapter. Bye-bye.